This is Geometry, Unit 4, Day 4. We're talking about rigid motion and congruence. We're recognizing with the shape what the congruent statement is and what parts go together. In this diagram, we know that triangle ALX is congruent to triangle GIW. That tells us that they're congruent. This is called a congruent statement. Now, if this is our congruent statement, we can look and notice some relationships. We know that LX, which is your second two letters in this, have to go with the IW. So if this is a congruent statement, then LX is going to be congruent to IW. You actually don't even need to look at the shape if you have the congruent statement. Angle A is the first letter, it's going to go with angle G. Now IW has an equal sign. They want to know what is it equal to in terms of a measurement or a number. So IW does not have a label on it, but IW is the last two letters. It should go with LX, which is 4 centimeters. So IW would also be 4 centimeters. LAX, triangle LAX, is part of your congruent statement. We have to name the other triangle that has the same order of letters. So we started with L. L is the second letter. It should go with the second letter. So we start with I. Then A should go with G. And X should go with W. So this is another congruent statement that would tell you the exact same thing as this one did. It's just a different one. There are 6 correct ways and there's many incorrect ways. Angle I is the middle letter. It's going to correspond with angle W. Angle A is equal to G. G is 55, so angle A is 55. Angle L, if A is 55, angle L is 180 minus 92 minus 55. So that's 33 degrees. Together, all three angles add up to 180. Here we need to write a congruent statement. When we write a congruent statement, we need to see which letters all match up. I'm going to start with my first shape, my first letter with a single curve, and then 2 curves, 3 curves, and 4 curves. We could have started with any letter we liked, and we could have gone either direction, but you have to go in consecutive order. You cannot jump inside the shape. That's going to be congruent. C has 1 tick mark, so it goes with H. And then I, J, K. The F has 4 tick marks. The K has 4 tick marks. Segment, the 2 middle letters, D and E, have 2 tick marks. IJ also has 2 tick marks. So there's a lot of advantages for keeping it in order. It shows you all the corresponding parts. Here, you could start this triangle in any order, any letter you wish. I'll call it triangle T, and then we'll come down the 2 ticker to the angle, which is R, and finish with the V. So the same thing here. If I went down the 2 ticker, I have to go down the 2 ticker in this case also. So it's Y, X, Z. The T and the Y are in the same position. They're at the edge of, or the end of the 2 ticker segment that has a single angle marked at it. The R and the X are both center ones, and they both have 1 tick mark. and then Z is your final one. We have two triangles. We have the triangle on top. That would be this one. And then we have the triangle that's farther down. The triangle that's on top that has one tick mark is N. The triangle on the bottom with one tick mark is triangle L. Triangle N, and then we're going to talk about NLK. We went from one tick mark, two tick marks to three tick marks. Over here we're going to go LNM. That would be a correct way to write a congruent statement for that triangle. Here, remember, whenever you have two lines that are completely crossing each other, we're going to have what's called vertical angles. And vertical angles will always be congruent. Even if they're not labeled, we know that they're going to be congruent. D, which is a one ticker, G, which is a two ticker, and finish with E. That triangle has to be congruent to, it has to be in the same order. One tick mark, two tick marks, and three tick marks. Here we have our congruent statement, so we know what parts go together. Angle G is the second letter, and angle T is the second letter. It wants us to find the value of X. Well, with X, G has that. So G is 2X minus 7, and G is supposed to be the same thing as T. So we know, because angle G is congruent to angle T, that angle G is going to be equal to angle T. Two goes into 11 5 times with one left over. 2 goes into 10 2 times. So X is 52. On the next side, we're looking at a congruent statement. It tells us what sides are corresponding to each other. We have to find the variable of each letter. So we're looking for Y degrees. We know that Y goes with angle E. Angle E is the middle letter, so it goes with the middle letter. So this has to be Y. These are two acute angles of a right triangle. So you could either say that all three of them add up to 180, but we also learned a theorem in the past that said Y plus 65 equals 90, that they are complementary. So Y is going to be 25 degrees. We know we have two tick marks, makes that 65. So we have two tick marks, that has to be 65 also. 45 has one tick mark, and then M and Y would have to be the same. So we don't have a right triangle here, so we can't talk about the acute angles adding up to 90. So we have to say 65 plus 45 plus Y adds up to 180. 110 plus Y, subtract the 110. We find out that the value of Y is 70 degrees for letter B. For letter C, we see that the single tick mark here has 56 degrees on it, and the single tick mark here has an expression. Well, that expression has to equal 56 degrees. So x itself is going to be 21. We know that the single tick mark is 56. We know that this tick mark is 56. This is a right triangle. So the acute angles of a right triangle are complementary. When we divide by 2, we find out that y equals 17 degrees. And our final one, we see that 2y plus 2 is this 2 ticker. 120 is the 1 ticker. The 3 tickers here seem to have 20 listed on it, so this has to be 20 degrees. So we know that a triangle is going to add up to equal 180 degrees. 120 plus 20 is 140, plus 2 more is 142. That still has to equal our 180. Minus that. And when we divide by 2, we figure out that the y value is 19. There is no x value for this problem.